that some people, at the expense of the work, do so much protecting that it ends up taking them twice as long. I think you commit 110%, you give it all, and in interactive games, you'll be falling off a cliff, then falling off a bigger cliff, then falling off that big cliff on fire, then falling off that big cliff on fire with swords in you, then falling off that big cliff on fire with swords in you and, you know, nuclear weapons aimed at you. So I think it's a bizarre answer, but I think sometimes the shortcut is not to try to find the shortcut. The shortcut is to commit, and this is voice acting. So if you really are where you're supposed to be in your head and in your voice, it's going to serve you because it's going to ring true. And anything you do to sort of sidestep that is going to end up ultimately costing you. But yes, there are exercises, and there are you got to chill when it's time to chill, and not be the person who's out in the outer lobby telling loud jokes if you know you've got a limited resource.
Thank you. And my second question is, this is something that I'm sure a lot of people are wondering, how did it feel to play Devastator's Crush?
I was hoping I would see some sort of a ring, or a locket, you know, a lavalier, a pin, an ID bracelet, something, but hey, it's a job. You got to be there. Somebody's got to be the tail of the horse. Somebody's got to be the front of the horse. So you know, someplace to be and something to do. You do what you're called on to do, and that's enough.
How you doing?
Good. How you doing?
I have two questions myself. The first one, I was wondering, how did you get the Grimlock card, like for Transformers? Like, was it alcohol, or did Wally hit you, or?
Wally Burr and I had recently become friends. I was doing some G.I. Joe already, if I'm remembering correctly. And Wally had seen me in a play that I had done in Los Angeles that had come out from New York. I had always been pursuing voice work, but my first interest, my first love, and my first loyalty was stage. He was very complimentary afterwards. He said, well, this makes me aware of your versatility, and I'll keep you in mind for other stuff. And he did. When I got the chance to read for Grimlock. In general, I consider, this is back to like the book, but life, like art, is at its best collaborative. So I think there are clues everywhere, and anyone who thinks they're just coming in with great pipes and that's going to serve them is going to find out real quickly that it won't. I honor the artist, I honor the writer, and I take all of those as clues before I even think about opening my mouth. I try to take in as much data as I can and have that influence stuff. For Grimlock, aside from giving myself a tonsillectomy by just screaming my guts out, I looked at what the artist was drawing, and I saw a real tightness in the jaw, so until I could do it without it, I just sort of restricted my jaw and did the original reading like that. And I pushed myself so hard that when the agent called and said that I got it, I thought, geez, is this a good thing or a bad thing? I'm gonna die. But that goes back to the previous question, and you find ways, if you're intense and dedicated and willing, to wrap your arms around whatever it is that you've now acquired, including Devastator's crotch. Whatever you gotta do it. And so I would say I became stronger, better, faster, funnier, and more versatile as a result of diving into it and finding ways to wrap myself around it and make it work. But that's why he opened that door for me. And of course there were 100 other people reading for it.
All right, and my second question, there's an obvious shift in Grimlock's characteristics from the end of season 2, where he's like a brooding sort of outcast, and season 3 where he becomes more of a dummy. Did you have any regard towards that? Like, what were your thoughts towards that?
You know, I mean, you're always aware of the script that you're handed.
Yeah.
I don't think anything happens on its own. I'm not underselling or underestimating our contribution to the show, but the voice actors are the last ones in and the first ones out. It's all conceived, readied, approved, and decided before you get there. And by the time you're gone, it goes back to the other 1,000 variables that go into making a show. So I won't say that I didn't notice and couldn't notice that there it was broadening the character and it was changing.
Yeah.
But, you know, you play the hand that you're dealt. So I would say I was aware, and I guess you try to fold that new information into what you thought you knew. This happens in episodic television also, where characters will sort of change, either grow positively or grow negatively. Who's to say? It's a judgment call.
Yeah.
But that just becomes new information. My job becomes to process that and try to make it part of a three-dimensional character.
All right. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Okay, I got two questions too. Okay, now.
Then I got two questions for you.
Who's like voicing with the other four on bus? Neil Ross, Frank Robert, Hall Ray, or Michael Bell?
Neil Ross?
Slash.
Yeah.
Who's like voicing with the best?
Which one what?
Which one before the other four on bus? Like voicing with?
Oh my gosh. I don't want to sound goody-goody, but I love everybody. I love the whole big picture. I can't single. I mean, I talk about this, but the fact that Generation 1 has the longevity that it's had, the fact that it's lasted, and the fact that I've met people's kids because it was important to them that their kids become acquainted with something that was that important to them. Every aspect of that is part of what makes that successful. And I'm not trying to avoid the question, but I really think it's like a mosaic, where every tile in that mosaic is significant to the finished picture.
That's fair enough.
Cool.
The next question is, other than the Transformers, who's your favorite voice in G.I. Joe?
Of mine?
Yeah, your favorite yours. You know, like a color?
Spirit. Possibility and impossibility are states of mind. In my mind, there is only the possible, that which can be done.
Thank you very much.
And it's spirit because I'm a terminal optimist and I'm convinced it'll kill me someday, and so is spirit.
Hey Greg, it's great to see you again. It's very touching that you remember so many of us from 2001.
It's bizarre. I really do remember faces, and I recognize you as soon as I saw you.
Well, Beck, could you describe for us what goes into a typical voice acting session? I know you mentioned you're working on that new cartoon series. So what goes into a typical day for someone like you?
Bad coffee, good gossip, come for the schmooze and stay for the read. There's a setting up process. The better run sessions are already written. Everything is ready to go. All the pieces come together. The engineer is like way ready. The writers are ready. The producer, everybody is on the same page before the actors arrive. And there's different approaches to it. Some people insist on a full cast, full read before you proceed, and things happen out of that usually send the writers off with better ideas or different ideas. Sometimes the producer or the voice director will come in and just explain the storyboard page by page. And that's really important, because all you've got in front of you is pages of words. Whoever's holding that storyboard knows the size, scope, and intensity of what needs to happen. And if they can't communicate that to you, then it's not going to look right when it's put up against picture. And I know that there are some people that complain about directors who it feels like they push them too hard. But voice act, because I'm in the on-camera community also, the direction you hear every day until it just tires you out is do less, do less, do less, do less. Well, that's correct for on camera, but because an artist is working with whatever you give them in the animated world, it's do more, do more, do more, do more. You can't, whatever you do, the artist is going to thank you for. Whatever fleshing out you can do is all going to pay off on the other end. That doesn't mean you can change the script. The script is the script. Although, in most of these sessions, because the energy is contagious, if it's Garfield and it's funny, then usually you're allowed and encouraged to do anything that sort of pads that a little bit. If it's deep and intense and the universe is hanging in the balance, then it's usually extremely tight because it's been honed down before you even got there. I love my work. I love every day of my work. And when questions are sort of pointed at making something better than something else, I love it all. I'm in a position where I get to express myself. I get to do more, not less. You don't have to shave. The jokes are incredible. I mean, I would say that the voiceover community that I find myself in tends to be pretty well read because we're readers. That's what we do. Somebody else has written it, and we usually try to enhance whatever's on the page. But it's just an incredible. The jokes are really dirty and really funny. You ask what happens at sessions, and it's just it's all good. It's a really like-minded group of people. I feel like I'm in this incredible fraternity of it's like summer camp for gifted adults. How's that?
Well, since there's little kids in the audience, I guess I want to ask you about those dirty jokes maybe later on, but thanks a lot, Craig.
I don't tell them.
Okay, I have two questions. There's this new Transformers series called Transformers Animated, and have you heard of it so far?
Yes.
There's this guy who does the voice of Grimlock named David McKay, and do you think he's doing a good job so far?
I haven't seen Transformers Animated. I actually have just gotten some of this information from people since I've been here. Feel free to write, feel free to chat, feel free to blog. I don't know and I can't speak to the question. I only go where I'm invited, and somehow, for reasons I'm not aware of, it wasn't discussed with me. I'm not aware of it. I wasn't aware that it was happening, but I am now aware that it is happening.
Sorry about that stupid question.
Oh no, not at all. Hey, that's a great question. I'm asking the same question. If there was a concern that I was unable or unwilling, I'm neither unable nor unwilling.
Yeah, well, here's a second question you may answer pretty well. What inspired you to become a voice actor?
When I was a little kid, I used to look at people. I'm a people watcher from way back. And I was always fascinated with how people's faces looked and how they were constructed and where their jaw was set and where their features were. And then I'd wonder what that person sounded like. And I did this as a little kid. And I would just engage people in conversation to see if I was right or wrong. And sometimes I was right, sometimes I was wrong. But I guess there was a fascination ever since then. And I still sort of have it. I mean, I think every face is perfect for the person that it's on, and every voice is perfect for the person it belongs to. But I like the whole idea of jumping into some other likeness that an artist has drawn and trying to give it a third dimension. Neil Ross says, if you turn off the sound on an animated show, you'll see beautiful art, but you won't necessarily know what's going on. If you turn the picture off on an animated show, you'll listen to a radio show, you'll know who everybody is, you'll have a sense of what they look like, and you'll know what it is that they're going through. I thought that was really interesting.
Well, that's it. Thanks.
Cool, nice sweatshirt. Oh, all right. Hey, Nate.
I have a question, but that's a quick comment. Obviously, from our reaction to the montage and from what we can see, Transformers
staying power. Good. But the character Grimlock is very enduring. We all love Grimlock. Is that right?
Sign me up.
Well, I was wondering, since you're the voice of Grimlock, what do you think is the cause of that enduring quality? Why, over so many generations and different Transformers franchises, does Grimlock remain so popular as a character?
It's a really great question. I'm not sure I can answer it. I think he probably has more vulnerability than he's invincible, but sort of endearing at the same time, and definitely passionate about his pursuits, and not uncomfortable with his ego, and then there's that pronoun problem.
I was going to say, as an English teacher, it's setting a bad example for the kids, but I appreciate it for the character.
Me teach your class. Me no bozo. Me king.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's good. I'm a small voice, so sorry. In the season 3 episode, Grimlock's to the brain, Grimlock in fact gets to the brain. When you first saw the script for that and you were reading through it, was it surreal or unexpected? Did it come as a surprise to be playing a character that for so long you've known as being who he is, and all of a sudden IQ?
It was not totally unexpected because Paul Davids, who wrote those episodes, was around in those days, and he said, I got a surprise coming your way. But that said, I mean, it was so 180, and the previous question about just wrapping your head around new concepts as they're delivered to you, I mean, I think that's part of the joy of it. When you're in a series, things happen to your character. But when you're the last one in and the first one out, you don't know what happened to your character until that paper is put in your hand, and then you try to honor it and make that the truth. And frankly, I think we did a really good job of making that the truth. And with the other previous question about all of that swing toward slightly more comedic, and just things happened over the course of the episodes. So I'm a very go with the flow person, and I think life gives you new information and you process it and try to make it consistent with what went before and what comes after. So that was the challenge.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Just want to ask, was there ever a time when you were reading for Outback and you sat back and thought, this guy's a walking stereotype?
No, I don't remember that. I just thought there's certain vowel sounds that are going to work for this character that wouldn't work for other characters. Then I thought, no, he's a little more burly than that, so we'll go this way, right? So it's like that.
Thank you very much. One final quick question. Stereotypical one, it was going to be asked anyway, but as a Grimlock, what would you say is your favorite line to have recorded that you've said?
Slag and sludge do what Grimlock say!
Thank you very much.
Hello, a couple of quick questions for you. The first one is, you mentioned how you first got interested in voice acting, but how did you actually get started in the profession?
Oh, geez, that's a really... Sherman, set the Wayback Machine for ancient Rome. I was in an acting conservatory in the Midwest called the Repertory Theater of the Loretto Hilton Center. I'd been a student at Webster College. Webster College, the acting faculty, stop me when this gets too convoluted. The acting faculty of the school was the resident company of the theater. So as a student, I had the opportunity to audition for, and I was in several productions at the Rep. One guy who was in a production that we were doing had a second job at the public television station, PBS, in St. Louis in those days. He said, geez, I mean, I've always done voices just to clown around, whatever, or to tell a story, or however it fell out. Anyway, he said they're doing this puppet show called The Letter People, and do you want to come and read for it, because you'd probably be good. So I did that, which technically was my first voice-over job. I also, they said, can you be a puppeteer? I said, oh yeah. I had no idea how to puppeteer. The correct answer, whenever possible, is yes, you know. But while I was doing that, I heard somebody say to somebody, you know, they're casting for a temporary replacement for the booth announcer. And I said, oh, I want to read for it. And actually, I did, and I became the temporary booth. By the way, in addition to not knowing how to run a puppet, I didn't know what a booth announcer was. The booth announcer is the guy who says, the following program is made possible through a grant from whatever. So while I was still a senior in college, I was working this brief, it wasn't that brief, temporary gig as the booth announcer for PBS. And ironically, I still have a PBS station in Florida that I do. So everything that goes around comes around. But that was the first experience I had. I acquired tapes from the letter people and from the booth announce gig, and then I had the first semblance of a voice tape. Just like an 8x10 photograph is the only way you can present yourself for on camera. If you don't have something on tape that tells them what you sound like, you can't really have any credibility as far as seeking voice work.
And my second question, this is a more Transformers related one. How have your, Transformers has been around for almost 25 years now. It's been quite some time since we were
I must be old.
How has your attitude towards Transformers changed since you first got the job relative to now, just looking and seeing how the franchise is continued and there's all this reverence for your characters relative to when you first started out?
I love that question. I love that question because I'm stupefied. And I'm stupefied because you can't know, and this is another sort of metaphor for living. The reason to always do your best work every minute of every day is because you don't know what's enduring. No one knows what's enduring or what has impact or what's going to affect someone else's life. This work that we, you know, showed up for and gave our all to, it is still, look at this room. It's phenomenal. It's humbling. It's stupefying, and you can't do something saying this is epic. This is going to last forever. The only things that last forever are things that deserve to last forever. That has to be earned. So there's some X factor, magic quality that has to do with the heart and soul and three-dimensionality of those characters, those situations that has lasted. So I'm humbled and stupefied all at the same time. I just think it's astounding.
Thank you.
Thank you.